Maggie is 17 years old and flying solo on her first cross country. The ensuing terror and the efforts to save her would make this the most memorable flight of her life. Let's see what happened.
Warrior 24906 X-ray, runway 9, full length, cleared for takeoff. Warrior 24906 X-ray.
Cleared to takeoff, 96 X-ray.
Tower, that Warrior just departed the right main gear strut and wheel just fell off the airplane.
Roger. Warrior 24906 X-ray, Tower.
Yeah.
Okay, Warrior 24906 X-ray, the Waco just said that your right main is now missing from the airplane. It's fallen off the airplane. Say your intentions.
Can I circle back to land?
Oh my gosh, what a terrible radio call to get as a student solo pilot. I still remember the first time that I flew as a student solo pilot. It's an extremely nerve-wracking experience because, that's your first time by yourself in the aircraft. Now, this is not necessarily this student pilot's first time by herself in the aircraft. This is actually a solo cross-country flight. At least that was the plan when she woke up that morning. And now she has gotten airborne, and then all of a sudden she gets this radio call basically saying that you've just lost your right main gear. Say your intentions.
Falling off the airplane. Say your intentions.
Can I circle back to land?
Warrior 906 X-ray, affirmative. Are you a solo, ma'am?
I'm a student pilot solo, yeah.
Okay, it'll be okay. Just go ahead and circle the airport for now. Make a right turn to circle. We're going to get some people out to help you, okay?
Okay.
So just stay at pattern altitude 1,100, and you can make a right turn out, okay?
Okay.
Oh man, those radio calls from that student pilot are heartbreaking. You can hear, that terror and that fear in her voice as she doesn't know what to do. And thankfully, this controller is doing a fantastic job of really making things very simple for her and, recognizing that she's a solo student pilot and just trying to provide her with some basic instructions and reassure her that things are going to be okay. We're going to work through this,
906 X-ray, just continue to circle. Go ahead and fly overhead the runway. Just like you would be flying a normal pattern, but just maintain your altitude. We're going to get someone out on the frequency to help you, all right?
All right.
All right, now keep in mind that air traffic control, tower controllers, ground controllers, that are talking to pilots on the radio, most of them are not pilots. And so for this tower controller, even if she's familiar with that aircraft, she's still going to want to find someone else that regularly instructs on that aircraft, especially if she can find the instructor for this specific student and try to get an instructor up to the tower so that way they can work together to help the student make it through the situation safely.
906 X-ray, Tower.
Yeah.
Okay, 906 X-ray, we have one of the instructors up here, Greg. He just wants to make sure how you're doing.
Okay.
Hey Maggie, this is Greg. How you doing?
As good as it gets, I guess.
Okay, that's probably the same type of response that I would give as a student pilot in this situation. I mean, I'm doing as good as it gets, I guess. And you can hear a little bit of laughter in her voice, which really, in my opinion, is probably just relief knowing that she's now talking to an instructor that's going to help her through the situation.
Yeah, listen, it's going to be okay. So you got plenty of fuel. You got the aircraft under control. So you're just going to continue circling. John's going to be here shortly, and we'll keep you updated. But we'll work it out.
All right.
And just to give you a little background on the situation, Greg is an instructor, but John is the instructor that has worked with this student pilot before. And so they're trying to get John over to the tower and up on the radio because they know that John is going to be familiar with everything that this student has done so far. And also getting John on the radio is really going to give the student a lot more confidence in the situation because it's someone that she's used to working with. She's used to hearing his voice, talking with him. And so hopefully that's going to make this go a lot smoother.
And Warrior 906 X-ray, on this pass, I'm going to have you circle to the left. I do have 2 aircraft coming up from the south that'll be landing. Just circle to the left. We do have some instructors up here, so just continue to do the circling like you are. You're doing a good job.
Okay, I'll circle to the left. 906 X-ray.
Warrior 906 X-ray, if you can just go ahead and make that left turn now for the base and then overfly the runway again. I do have traffic coming up from the south, all right?
All right.
Man, this tower controller is just doing a phenomenal job. Normally when you tell a pilot to circle the field or circle north of the field or remain in the traffic pattern, the tower controller doesn't have to provide them any further instructions on how to do that. But this tower controller is essentially not only monitoring the other two aircraft that are going to be trying to land at this field, but she's actually visually watching the student pilot circle around the aircraft and is telling her when to start her turns and which direction to turn, and really helping out the student pilot until they can get her instructor on the radio.
Maggie, this is John. How you doing?
I'm okay.
Okay, you're doing a great job flying the airplane. Keep doing what you're doing. They're going to stage the equipment just in case anything's needed there, but we're just going to wait. We're going to take our time here. We got plenty of time. You got plenty of fuel. We got plenty of daylight. So just try to relax, and you always heard me say go back to basics, so we're going to work the basics here as much as possible, okay?
All right.
So when John's talking about staging the equipment, he's talking about the fire trucks or rescue vehicles that they're going to go ahead and pre-position just in case something does go really wrong with this landing. But I think he does a really good job of trying to just let her know that they're going to be there, but not really focus on that, too much, because that could get her stressed out even more. And he shifts right into, hey, don't worry about this. You've got plenty of time. It's daylight. You've got plenty of fuel. The weather's good. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to focus on the basics, because as a student pilot, that's the one thing you're going to remember from your training is the very basics.
So Maggie, it's John again. They just did a final sweep of the runway to make sure there's nothing out there that's going to cause any problems. I can see it at altitude lining up the runway. So why don't you just continue down like you normally do? What I'm thinking is just have you fly down the length of 9 like you're doing right now, and then when you're comfortable, I'm going to have you turn and to the left and enter a left downwind on 09. Would that work for you?
Yeah, that works.
Okay, so he's explained to her something that's pretty important. They've already sent a truck out there to make sure that her landing gear still isn't sitting on the runway. That's, obviously going to cause a big problem if she tries to land and that thing is in her way. So they've done a sweep of the runway. And he also does a really good job of asking if that plan is going to work for her, because even though it sounds like a great plan in his mind, if something else is going on with the aircraft that he's not aware of, or if she's just not ready and not confident enough to start to execute that plan, then this gives her a chance to say so, and then they can work through that.
Okay, and I'll tell you, I'm going to keep an eye on you and maybe suggest when you might want to start the turn crosswind and downwind. We're going to do this just like we did. I know it's hard to say this, but treat it like as much as like a normal landing as you can. So the power settings we've always done, the pitch for the airspeed, keep everything as normal as you can.
All right.
And that's what he's really just trying to reassure her that, hey, even though you're missing a landing gear, the plane is still flying just like it always has, just like the same power settings, the same flap settings that you're used to, the same sight picture when you go into land. And so you're going to continue to execute all of that the exact same way. But he's also reassuring her and saying, hey, I'm going to keep an eye on you as well. And I'm going to help you, tell you when to start your turn crosswind and downwind, things like that. So that way, she can become more confident in flying that traffic pattern and hopefully avoid any major incident.
So Maggie, the other thing is Greg and I have looked at the airplane through binoculars, so it's your right wheel that's missing. So and the plus side here is you get a little bit of a left crosswind. So if you use your normal left wing crosswind correction, that means the left side will touch down first, and you're just going to ease the right side down. It's going to try to pull to the right, so be prepared to use as much left rudder and left brake as you have to try to keep it on the center line.
All right.
And some of you might be wondering, why doesn't he tell her to land as far to the left side of the runway as possible? That way, when she does touch down, there's plenty of room on the runway when the aircraft pulls to the right. And it's true that if she lands to the left, that would give her more room, but that's not something that she has practiced before. And right now, the instructor wants to keep her focused on the basics and things that she is used to. And honestly, if he tells her to try to land on the left, it really overemphasizes the danger involved in the situation by making her think that she really has to land on the left, because if she doesn't, she's going to go off the runway and it's going to be this huge catastrophe. When the reality is, for the plane that she's flying, she's probably going to touch down at a speed, 65 knots or slower, which means that if she does go off the runway on the right-hand side, it's probably going to be at a fairly slow speed, and it would cause some damage to the aircraft, but overall the risk to her is minimal.
Okay, Maggie, well, let's do a left crosswind turn, and you're going to be flying approximately a heading of 360.
All right, left crosswind 360.
So, Maggie, you're in a better position than I am to call when you want to turn left downwind, but give yourself plenty of room. You don't want to cut the base too tight. So as you turn downwind, make sure like the left wingtip, just the left wingtip is just touching the runway. That should give you sufficient spacing. Like I said, as much as normal as possible.
All right.
All right, he's doing a really good job with his instruction here, because even though he can see her, it's tough for him to judge how far exactly she is away from the runway. So he's reminding her of what those visual references are. So as she looks out the left window, she can see the wing. She's basically going to fly a wide enough pattern where the wingtip is essentially just touching the runway, and that's going to ensure she has the spacing that she needs to actually execute this pattern.
What's real good, Maggie? You get enough spacing out there?
I think so, yeah.
We're not going to rush everything. This is going to be perfectly normal. If something looks wrong, I'll tell you to do a go-around, but we're going to do a perfectly normal landing here. Just kind of look back over the left wing. You want to be about a 45-degree angle from 9. And then bring the power back to, I'm going to say about 1700, because there's not a lot of wind here, and just a normal turn to base. So you're going to be doing a left turn to a heading of 180 for that base leg.
Again, reminding her of her visual references. As she looks out over her left shoulder, she's going to see runway 9, and she's going to wait until she's about 45 degrees off the runway to start that left-hand turn. And he reminds her again, it's a heading of 180 for that left-hand turn, and that's going to set her up for the appropriate spacing for landing.
Okay, Maggie, as you're turning final, do you feel high or do you feel low?
I feel high.
Okay, let's reduce the power. Why don't you bring it back to about 1400?
Now, the question of do you feel high or low is probably something that he's asked her many times before, and so it's something that she's familiar with, and he's probably given her some visual references from those instructional flights that he's provided her to know when she's high or when she's low, and he gives her the precise correction to make to fix that.
So, Maggie, when you're comfortable, go to full flaps.
Alright, there now, sorry.
That's okay. You're doing a great job. Just remember that 09's your aiming point. Very light winds, Maggie. Very light left crosswind. So that's all to your advantage. You're doing great. Keep doing what you're doing.
All right, here comes the moment of truth. Let's see how she handles the landing.
I'm gonna go back all the way down to tower.
You're doing a perfect job, Maggie. Just treat it like a normal landing. It's going to try to pull to the right. So when that left main touches down, right main touches down.
Alright.
Yeah, beautiful job, Maggie. You got a whole bunch of people clapping for you up here.
Overall, fantastic job, not only by the student pilot, but also by the instructor and the tower controller, everybody working together to create a positive outcome. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out this other one about a student pilot who's flying solo and he can't land because his throttle is stuck at max power. And I'll see you next time.